Welcome back to DIYs with Sonia. Today I'm sharing 50 high-end Christmas DIY dupes to kick off Christmas in July. These look for less holiday decor ideas are perfect if you're dreaming of a designer holiday without that designer price tag. I've gathered 50 of my favorite Christmas dupes inspired by high-end stores like Pottery Barn, Crate and Barrel, McGee & Co, and more. I've got everything from wall decor, wreaths, nutcrackers, ornaments, bowl fillers, bells, and so much more. It's a longer video, so grab a cozy drink, make yourself comfortable, or craft along with me. Videos like this always get me so excited for the Christmas season and give me a head start on gathering supplies and planning out my projects. I hope it inspires you to start getting creative too. And if you love budget-friendly DIYs, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you won't miss any of my upcoming Christmas projects. For the very first DIY, you are going to need some oranges as well as baking sheet lined with some racks, or you can just put your oranges straight onto the rack. And we are going to be recreating these orange slices from McGee & Co. And as you can see, the set of 12 of them is $22. I had picked up my oranges. They were $1.77 a pound, and this was just under $5, and it gave me double the amount. You're also going to need some twine so you can attach it to the dried slices so they are able to be hung as ornaments. I am using half of them as ornaments and half of them will be as bowl fillers. So you want to slice your oranges about 1/4 inch, and I did measure just so I can get a guide, and then the rest of them I just sliced using that first one as a guide. You can put these directly onto your oven racks in the oven. I just thought it might be a little bit less messy if I lined my baking sheet with parchment paper and then I added some racks to them. These are racks from our smoker, stand-up smoker, and they fit perfectly onto my baking sheet. Once I had sliced all of my oranges, I'm going to add them to the baking sheet. Now you want to preheat your oven to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Mine KitchenAid Pro Style oven did not have a 200 bake setting, but it did have a warming setting and proofing setting, and warming setting is at 200, so that is what I turned on for mine. When you are doing this project, I just want to let you know you want to give yourself plenty of time. I'm talking 6-7 hours. It is a very easy project to do, but it does take time. So if you do not want to leave your oven unattended, you have to be home for the duration of, and for me, it took 6.5 hours. And then I had two or three of them that were a little bit thicker, and I had to leave those for a little bit longer. I have read blogs where they said it would take 4 to 5 hours, and some did it at 250. Now, some of them said not to do it at 250 because that's when they will burn a lot easier. Whereas if you do them on a lower for longer, they won't burn as quickly. So you do have to keep an eye on them once you are approaching that 5 or 6 hours. I would say at 5 hours, start checking them. If you've never done this, I would start checking them at 4 hours just to make sure, depending on what your oven is like. But before I put mine in the oven, I did take a napkin or paper towel and just dried them all up, just the tops because they are very wet. And I think this does help the drying process as well. You can also use your dehydrator to do this if you have one, or your air fryer also has a dehydrate. Um, well, mine does. The Ninja Double one has a dehydrate setting as well. However, I would not be able to put all of these into my little drawers on the air fryer, so I chose to do it in the oven. And here they are. This is what they look like once they were dry, or baked. I did read somewhere that you could sprinkle right when they come out and they're hot, you could sprinkle some powdered sugar onto them and they will give them a shiny look. However, I was a little bit afraid of doing that for storage purposes, that it might create some mold while they are stored away. Not sure if that would happen. If you've ever done that and stored them successfully in a Ziploc bag with your Christmas decor, let us know down below. I did take a large needle and cut up some twine to the length that I thought would be great for hanging. However, I could not thread the twine through because it was a little bit thicker than the opening, so I did just wrap it around and pushed it through and that seemed to have worked. You could also use a hot glue gun and just add a little dollop on top and attach your twine to that. I thought this was a little bit nicer looking than having that hot glue on there. I know that McGee and Co. the price wasn't that astronomical at $22 for set of 12. However, this was um, a lot cheaper at $5 for the double the amount. And the plus part of this was it made your house smell so nice. And I think that this DIY, these ornaments are gonna look great with my theme. I'm going for more of a natural rustic look this year. I've kind of went that way last year as well, but I am focusing more on it this year than I did last year. Like I said, I love the way these turned out, and I think they are going to look great on my tree. For my next DIY, I couldn't believe my luck when I saw these three bells on Facebook Marketplace for $10. I was very excited and knew exactly what I wanted to do with them. McGee and Co. in their catalog has these three rattan bells for $188. And as soon as I saw these, I knew exactly what I was going to do with them. They did, as you can see, they're red, they're not very attractive looking, and they smelled really, really bad. So I did take the rusty wire off, and then I ended up giving them a good cleaning to get rid of the smell. For the paint, I did go with a chalk paint in the Annie Sloan Old Ochre, just because it is a beige paint. That was the only reason why I'm using it. I've had it for a while. It is kind of starting to get thick, meaning I need to use it up, so I don't have to add too much water to it. And I've been using it for different projects, and this one was also one of them. And chalk paint also, I find, does a lot better coverage than acrylic paint, meaning you probably won't have to go with it several different with several different coats, especially because I was painting over red. I did get some water and water the paintbrush as well, just to get that helps to get into little nooks and crannies if the paint is a little bit more wet. And you definitely want to paint the inside and the outside of the bell. Once all the three bells were painted and they had some time to dry, I went in with some brown and then also added a little bit more of this old ochre to it, and some water, and I just dabbed it with some paper towel, water, and then into the brown paint, and just to add a little bit of depth to the paint, and so it's not so beige. And you want to blend until it looks like it's always been there. I was absolutely thrilled with the way these turned out. I think they are such a great dupe for those bells, and you never know what you can find in your thrift store or at your on your Facebook marketplace. So make sure you keep checking. For your next DIY, this can be absolutely free depending on what you have at home on hand. So we are going to be recreating these bleached pine cones, and set of 15 is $12. Again, not overly expensive, but if we can do it for free, why not? So I did have to go buy bleach because I don't typically have bleach at home. Um, I just buy it when I need it and usually use it all up. So you're gonna need something to soak your pine cones in, and I have a variety of styles of pine cones and sizes. And you are also going to have to give yourself time because this took 24 hours plus some drying time. So pretty much 2 day, almost 2 days worth of DIYing. Again, not something that is very involving, and this one you could leave unattended if you wanted to. But for this, you will need also some water, and it will be 2 parts water to 1 part bleach. And then if you saw me trying to fit that plate, and you will need something that will keep the pine cones submerged so they don't pop up, so something heavy to put on top. And this goes without saying that if you are, whenever you're working with bleach, make sure you are very careful so you don't get your clothes bleached or wear clothes that you don't care if they do get bleached. Cover your work area and make sure you wash your hands thoroughly after working with bleach, because that can linger on your hands for a while, and if you touch something, it will bleach it instantly. I did stir them a little bit just to mix them up, just so that way I feel like all of it was covered up with this mixture. And then I add in my plate, and I did leave this out on my deck on top of the fire pit so the dogs wouldn't knock it down. And this is what they looked like once I had took them out 24 hours later. As you can see, some the smaller ones were almost white, some of the bigger ones not so much. I did end up putting them in the oven for about 4 hours at the 200 setting, and then they opened up while they were there. This just speeded up the process of drying. You can also leave them to air dry. And as you can see, the ones that looked brown, once I took them out, were actually a lot more bleached than the smaller ones that were completely white once they came out. I absolutely love the way this turned out. I think it's going to be such a great bowl filler, and it's going to also look great mixed in with just some regular pine cones. Next year was also another one that was very inexpensive to do. I had this frame at home from a different project, but it is from Dollar Tree, so you can pick it up for $1.50 in Canada or $1.25 in US. You can use any frame you want. There is no it's a look for less, right? So anything you have at home. And we are going to be recreating this look. It is a holiday tree art for $42. Now I am going to do my own spin on it, but that was an inspiration piece for me. So if I was to do that one, I would have just left the frame as is, or I would have tried to find a frame that had a little bit of a thicker border. But I'm going to make this more suitable for my decor in the area that I'm planning on using it. So I used the metallic gold spray paint just to give it some color, and I'm not doing like 100% coverage. I do want some of that black to show through. So once this frame had dried, so once this frame has dried, or I should say while it was drying, I went ahead and created some of my own art to use. And I use Canva to do so, and I will actually include it down in the description box for free if you want to use any of it. you can download it and use it yourself. So as you saw, I created a vintage Christmas tree and some of the Nutcracker music notes. So I am going to be using the Nutcracker music notes for my frame. And for this DIY, I might create another one with that Christmas tree. And I don't know if you saw my DIY that I did for fall, where I used a print that I printed and I added Mod Podge so it looked like it was painted. So you could totally do that on the Christmas tree as well. I wouldn't necessarily do it on here, but hey, you can do whatever you want if that's what you want to do. So I'm just cutting out here because the way I printed it, the burnt looks, I just wanted to cut that out. It's gonna go on the back of the cardboard, so I didn't want that white to be there. And here it is. I think this is such a classic look and it's gonna go so well with most of my decor anywhere I choose to use it. Next DIY is another ornament DIY. I absolutely love making ornaments, my own ornaments for Christmas. I gift these, I use them myself, and I think the possibilities are endless. So for this, I'm using gold, brown, and red paint, and I am going to be recreating this glass iron ornament that are $12. Now, these ones are not glass because I do not want glass in my house. I run a home daycare and that can be just a whole disaster with glass ornaments. So I picked these up for $1.50 at a Dollar Tree. And I'm also going to be using some flour. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is adding two coats of this brown paint to two of them, and then I'm gonna do two coats of the red paint to two of them. Now, originally I was going to use a Christmas red, but I did find it was a little bit bright, so just decided to use a deep red instead of Christmas red, and the brown is called um, burnt umber. I think that's what the brown color is called. While the first coat was drying, I did go ahead and spray paint the little caps of the ornaments, and I use a dark walnut to do so. I just thought it gave them that vintage look. You could also do if you have like what is the antique brass would look good as well. Gold would look good. Even just black would look good as well. I think it adds such an elevated look to the ornaments. So I did that while the first coat was drying. Then I applied the second coat of the paint, and then I did not wait for the second coat to dry before I dusted it with some flour. This is definitely not a new technique. You want to cover the whole ornament with flour, at least I did for mine, and then you want to let it completely dry before you brush it off. I've shared these type of DIY ornaments last year. I am doing something different after the flour is dusted off. Now, I thought I did show how I was dusting the flour off, but the camera wasn't on when I was doing it. So I'm just showing you how I did it. I used a bristling brush, stippling brush, and we want it to be dry and clean, and just dust all the flour off. You can also use a rag to remove the flour, but I like this way better. Now, I was going to use, I have Annie Sloan Antique Gilding Wax, which is almost like a rub and buff, but it did not really work very well with flour on there. So I ended up doing just two different types of gold that I had on hand of acrylic paint. One was spun gold and the other one was yellow gold. And I kind of blended the two colors together on the ornament, not while I was applying it. And I was using brush, and then I did end up using a napkin or a paper towel to do that. You can do this any color that you would like. As you saw, theirs was a little bit more on the antique black kind of color, which you could totally do, and it had a little bit of sparkle, which you could add to it as well, if you didn't have sparkly black paint. But you just want to continue doing this until you blend the colors together, and you still want to leave some of that bottom color showing through, and the flower just gives it a little bit more texture. And here is what they look like all done. I absolutely love the way these look. And adding some ribbon to them definitely makes them look even more expensive. For most of the DIYs here, I will be using these clear ornaments from Dollar Tree. For this very first one, I will also be using black acrylic paint, gold acrylic paint, blue acrylic paint, as well as bronze acrylic paint. I will also be using some cinnamon as well as some baking soda to mix into the paint. To make the baking soda paint mixture, I will be adding 1 part baking soda to 2 parts paint. And then you want to mix that well before you paint. But before I start painting, I will be removing the tags off, as well as these little hanging ribbons or ropes, because for most of them I won't be adding any ribbon, but for I think one of them I am adding my own ribbon to them to hang them on a tree. But you can leave these, or you can add any ribbon that you want, or you like just like me, you don't have to add, because I will be using them more of a table decor and shelf decor than rather on a tree. So once I have my paint mixture mixed well, and you want to mix really well so you don't have any clumps, I will proceed to painting all 3 ornaments first. Once I was done painting them, I let them dry completely before I move on to the next step. For the next step, I'm going to get my paints ready. I just add some onto the paper towel, and I'm adding all the other 3, the bronze, the gold, and the blue. And then I'm going to have, and each of them is going to have their own paintbrush, and I'm going to apply generous amounts of like just dabs of it, but generous dabs, and then I'm going to rub it in. I'm just using my hand to do so, and I just want to cover the area, in some areas heavier, in some areas lighter, so that way there's different shades of gold all around it. And then I proceed and repeat the same process with the bronze. Now once I start at the blue, I only do it in like 2 or 3 sections. I don't actually go through the whole ornament, because I'm trying to create that discolored look that some of the aged things have, like these ornaments, or even almost like the silverware, when it kind of has the different shades of blue in them, because they're so old. So that's kind of a look I'm going for.
Come on in, come on up, come on over for the merriest time of year.
So as you can see, you want the blue to be blended in well, so it's just, you just catch a hint of it looking at it. Now I repeat the same process for for the other two ornaments. If this is your first time stopping by my channel, welcome. My name is Sonia, and on this channel you will find tons of home decor DIYs as well as home reno DIYs. So I hope this is something that you enjoy watching, and you press that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit that notification bell as well, so that way you don't miss out any of my future uploads. And I would love to have you here as part of my YouTube family. For the last step for these ornaments, I'm going to make them not only smell good, but I'm going to add another layer of texture to them by adding some cinnamon. So I add a fairly generous amount of cinnamon sprinkle onto them, and then I take a paper towel and I rub it off. I do not wait for the paint to completely dry. It's not necessary because you had blended the paint in so well that most of it is pretty dry, and this also will help for when it's a little moist. It helps the cinnamon to stick. So I absolutely love the way these turned out. I think they're gonna look great on my tea card. You could also, like I said, add ribbon, hang them on a tree, or just add them into a bowl with some greenery. For my next DIY, I picked up these cone-shaped ornaments at Dollarama. I think they were around $3.50. So and I absolutely love the shape of them. I'm not sure what the name for this shape of an ornament it is. If you happen to know it, leave me a comment down below letting me know. I will just call them cone shaped, and I give them a spray paint. I spray paint them with white chalk paint. You want to have a lighter spray paint color if you're going to be spray painting, because of the next step. You want the next step to show, and the lighter the color, the more it's gonna show. So once they were all spray painted, I went outside and I picked up some dirt. Yep, dirt it is. So we're moving on from cinnamon and baking soda to dirt. My dirt was quite moist. That's how you want your dirt to be. Mine is moist because it was frozen and now it thawed out, so it was a little wet. You don't want full-on mud, but you want it pretty close. I do end up adding a little bit of water for my next one, just because I found that as wet as it wasn't wet enough. So you take the dirt and then you just rub it all over the ornament, making sure to get into all the little crevices.
Christmas times, we'll be chilling and having a good time. Doesn't matter if the snow is falling or the windows in the rain.
Once I was done rubbing it, I took a clean brush and just brushed off any excess dirt that I did not want on there. And then I proceeded on taking my gilding wax and adding some gold. This is called, I think it's called aged gold that I have. And I am just adding it into different spots of the ornament, rubbing it in with the paintbrush and my hand at the same time. And this will create another dimension, give it even a more of a rustic look. The key to the dirt and to this wax is to rub it in.
We'll be chilling and having a good time. Doesn't matter if the snow is falling or the windows in the rain is pouring. It will always be Christmas in my heart. But this year I wanna hang out with my friends and family, making angels in the sanctuary. Doesn't matter, it is Christmas in my heart. Here we go. All right. It's Christmas. We're gonna dance.
So I do love this look. I think it almost looks like it's old wood that was painted gold, or I don't even know, but they do give me the wood look vibe. So I repeat the same process for all the other two ornaments. Now you can be done at this point, or I went ahead and just gave it just light couple sprays of white at different sections. This blended it even a little bit more, and I just love the way these end up looking on my tree. I did end up adding some ribbon to them to hang them up. For ornament number 3, I am going to be using some flower, some back to my white clear ornaments, and then I'm also using black acrylic paint. So I'm going to give these a coat of paint, let them, I'm not going to let them dry before I add flower to it. So I am going to be sprinkling flour onto them, covering the whole ornament with it. And then I'm going to let it dry. I will repeat the same process for all the rest of them. Now I also want to mention that you don't have to paint these with black acrylic paint. You can do brown, you can do green, any acrylic paint that you want. Once they had dried, I take a clean brush and I just brush off all the excess flour that didn't stick off. And then I take the same gilding wax and do pretty much the same idea as the first DIY. I take the brush and then I just brush it on and rub it, swirl it, rub it in. I am mostly using the brush to rub it in, but I will use my fingers where necessary. How much gilding wax you put on, that is totally up to you. This is how I like mine to look. So I repeat the same process for the other two. So as you can see, they are similar to the first ones, but yet different because the texture is completely different, and I just love the way these look. For the number 4, I'm back to using the clear ornaments again, and I'm using a glass or a mirrored spray. And the inspiration that I saw said mirror, but I couldn't find mirrors, so I did buy glass, and it did work. I'm creating Mercury type ornaments, so I'm using that spray as well as a bronze and a gold spray, equal parts of water and vinegar spray, and then you'll need some hair dryer as well. So I do 3 sprays of this. I did learn that maybe my ornaments were a little too big just for 3, so I do end up doing about 5 sprays. Swirl it around, and then I spray some 1 or 2 sprays of vinegar and water, and just swirl it around a little bit more, and then I blow dry it. And I blow dry it until it's completely dry. Now, if you happen to have a ton of water in there, you do want to dump that out. But the swirling is absolutely necessary. As you can see, I go back in and spray some more of that mirrored, because I just felt like I wasn't getting the look that I was looking for. But I think the 5 sprays was sufficient for the larger ornaments. So once you are done swirling it around, like I said, if you think you have a lot of water in there, you might want to dump that water out before you use your hair dryer to dry it all out, and you want to keep drying it until it's fully dried in there. And make sure if there is a little bit of water out there that you do not dump it into your hair dryer. Once that was dry, I give it a spray of bronze first, then I'm gonna do gold one for the second, and the third one I'm going to do the mixture of both. So I think I gave about 3 generous sprays in there, and then I swirl it around again, and then I use the hair dryer again and dry it until it's dry. I am amazed at how these turned out and how that whole mirrored spray works. So like I said, for the next one I do exactly the same thing, but for my spray paint I am using gold, and then for the last one I will be using the combination of both of them. I think these look so good. They 100% look like they came from a unique high-end store. Now for the little ends of the ornaments, I did take them all and I just sprayed them with my bronze spray paint. You can use any spray paint you want to paint them. I just thought the bronze probably would be the best choice for the ones, the colors that I have chosen. to go with. And I want to also mention that for all of these DIYs that I'm using the spray paint color, the metallics do work better than, let's say, a solid paint color, although I will be using a solid spray paint in the next one. So this one was almost a bonus DIY because I had one ornament left over, and I just wanted to show you a different way that you can make the same Mercury glass type of ornament. It does end up turning a little different, but it's very similar. So I fill up a tray with water, then I do give spray of the glass spray, and then the bronze and the gold, but I'm also adding a walnut brown color because I just felt like it needed another color in there. Now I'm going to take that ornament and swirl it around. How much spray paint you actually spray in there depends on how well you want this covered. I did end up adding a little bit more paint because I did feel that I didn't have enough, so keep that in mind. So probably a bit more is better than less. And I think this ornament turned out very similar to the other ones, but I think the whole process was a little bit easier. For my first project, I have picked up this wreath ring a while back at your dollar store with more for $3, and it was a gold color, which is what I needed, so it worked out perfect. And then I also at Dollar Tree picked up the set of 3 white bottle brush trees, and then I had a whole bunch of other stuff on hand that I was thinking about using, like these snowflakes, these wooden stars, and then I also had a whole bunch of greenery, and then you will need some wire. So I will be creating this dupe. As you can see, it's $149, and my dupe for all these things that I had spent came up to $450. But let's say I used all the materials and factored those in, even though I had them on hand, this did not cost me more than $5. So like I mentioned, you need some wire. I will be using green floral wire as well as some crafting gold wire that I had on hand from scrapbooking years. So the first thing that I'm doing here is creating a base with my greenery, and I am using the floral wire to attach this to the wreath.
Oh, oh, la da da da, oh, oh, la da da da, oh, oh, la da da da, making our Christmas memories. I've been working so much lately, I can barely find the time to sleep. Yeah, I spend my time running around, keeping people pleased. But this is my favorite holiday.
Once I have my base the way I wanted, you could attach more greenery, go up a little bit higher if you'd like. I was happy with the way mine looked. I went ahead and painted these stars black. The reason why I'm painting these stars black, which is a little bit different than the inspiration wreath, is because the room that I'm going to be using this decor is has a lot of black accents, so I wanted to incorporate it into that decor. And then while those stars were drying, I went ahead and hot glued the trees to the wreath. And I'm using these white ones. You could use any color you want. I just wanted the white ones. Now I did let these wreaths dry for a few minutes before I went ahead and hot glued these houses. These are the houses from Dollar Tree. And then I forgot to mention that this is what you need as well. I did have these on hand because I had DIY them about 2 weeks ago, where I just spray painted them white to fit my decor a bit better. Now to hot glue this, you do need to use a ton of glue, and as you can see, this house does have a switch for a light as well, and that's one of the things that the wreaths from Pottery Barn was lit up. The house was lit up as well. I don't think I'm going to be lighting up mine, but we'll see how I feel about it once it is hanging on my mirror where it's supposed to be going. You want to use plenty of hot glue to attach this from top and from the bottom, and then I also used some clamps just to keep it in place while the glue was drying. So while this was drying, I went back to my stars and my gold floral wire, and I cut up how much I needed. Some I cut shorter, some I cut longer pieces, and then I'm going to hot glue these to the stars.
With you, just you and nobody else. It's so good to see you again, to see you again. Baby, this year it's just gonna be you and me. Hanging by the fire, chill. This is how it's supposed to be. Making our Christmas memories. I've been longing to hold you close. Forget about everyone else. Isn't this how it's supposed to be? Making our Christmas memories.
Now I'm going to go back to my wreath and wrap the wire around the wreath in different directions, and I'm doing 3 on each side. Now to complete this look, I did add some black ribbon to it, and I absolutely love the way this turned out. For $5, I could not be more happier. So what do you guys think? Like I said, those black stars and the ribbon can be done in any color that you want. But I do think that my dupe came out pretty close. What do you guys think? For my next DIY, I am using these ornaments from Dollar Tree. So I picked up 3 of them, so that's $3.50, and I will be making these light up cloches with truck ornament. Now mine aren't going to light up, just simply because I couldn't find the little things to put in there to light up. But if you can, I'm sure there are some, if you can find some, that would be great. And as you can see, these were $19.50 for one, plus $15 for shipping. Now I'm pretty sure these were glass versus mine are plastic, and but I thought I could recreate this look and come pretty close to it with these ones that I picked up at Dollar Tree. So I am painting the lids with brown just to create that wood look. You could also just hot glue some cardboard piece, a round cardboard piece to the bottom of it. And if you are doing light up ones, I would recommend that you do the cardboard, so that way you can cut out the switch on it, so that way you don't have to take the thing apart to turn the light on, because if you leave it on the whole time, the battery's not gonna last your whole season. So I took the tops off, and I'm just going to hot glue pieces of rope around it. This will create that open look that the other one has.
This Christmas is mine and yours. The smell of fresh pine tree. I get down on one knee, ring in hand, and you almost choked on your mulled wine when I asked you to be mine.
Now for the inside, I had picked up a bag of this snow, and then I also got some of the miniature Christmas village pieces. I got 3 packets, and I used one item out of each packet. I think that's what I did, yes. And then 1 or 2 items, and then I also picked up miniature Christmas trees from the same set. So altogether I had spent so I think I said $350, but I actually spent $450 for the ornaments, and then these packets I spent another $4.50, and then the trees and the snow another $3. So altogether I think that came up to $12. However, I did not use all of the supplies that I had bought, and I also made 3 of them versus 1. I do think that these guys came out pretty cute. I love how they look on my rustic Christmas tree, and I do think that I came pretty close aside from the lighting of the ornament.
An angel choir singing.
This next dupe was so super easy to make, and I think it looks really great, especially on your tier trays or a little tray, any tray or a shelf filler that you need. I am using these small frames that are 2 for $1.50 at Dollar Tree, and then I also picked up 2 of these plaster ornaments that you can paint from Dollar Tree, and they were 2 for $1.50, so my total was $3. Set of 2 at Pottery Barn was $1.83. Now these are bigger, I give them that, but I still think that mine look very much the same, they're just smaller. So I took these plasters ornaments, and I just cut off the hanging part, and then I also sanded it down just to round it up a little bit so it doesn't look rough where I cut it. I am leaving these the way they are with the wood. I am just flipping them around. I'm not even taking the white part off, where I sometimes take it off and I flip it and hot glue it. I'm just leaving them as they are, not staining them, and then I'm going to, once the ornaments are sanded down, I'm going to hot glue them to the frame. This was such a super easy DIY and inexpensive, and I think it has a high impact. I love the way they turned out, and like I said before, I think they came out pretty close for $4.50, and I could not be more happier. I could not spend $189 on 2 pieces of art anyways, no matter what size they are. Another easy DIY that I'm going to be working on are these Nutcrackers. It would have been fun if I could have found different heights, but at Dollar Tree they had them. They were very similar in height, but they I don't love the way these look, so I have been contemplating about buying them and just spray painting them black, which is another option if that's something that you are looking for, just to add a bit of inexpensive decor. But I am going to be creating wood look nutcrackers to dupe these two. These were 112. I'm not sure whether it was for both of them or for just one. I'm gonna go with that they were for both of them. So 112. They weren't much bigger than these. But after I am finished removing all this hair off of them, I'm going to give them a generous coat of chalk paint. I'm using a cocoa chalk paint. I think that's what it's called, from Annie Sloan. It's a very beigeish brownish paint. You can use any one that you have. I would just recommend that if you are using acrylic paint, to add some cornstarch to it. This will give you texture, and with the brush strokes it will create that almost wood look. You could also paint around their little collar or in their mouth. I'm not sure what that's called, a darker color to create the look that the wooden ones have, but I just left them as is. I did add 2 coats. Now my chalk paint was quite thick because I think it's on its it needed to have water added, but I didn't mind the thickness because, like I said, it added even extra texture. So play around with the paint until you get the texture that you want. I recommend adding cornstarch to your acrylic paint. If you don't want to do that, spray painting them will just work just as well. It will probably be a lot faster, considering I did 2 coats of this paint, but you might not get the brush strokes and the texture that creates that wood look. I absolutely love the way these turned out. I think they're such an easy DIY, a great dupe. As you can see, one guy is a bit taller than the other, but I think they came out pretty close, and it cost me $4.50.
On your door, it's Christmas, outside snow's glistening.
So the last dupe that I'm going to be working on, you need I am using some of the drop cloth that I picked up at Dollarama, and the whole piece, I think it's 8 feet by 10 feet, is $4. And then I picked up these placemats from Dollar Tree for $1.50 each. So I'm gonna say the 2 of these pillows cost me $8.50, but I did not use all of the backing. The drop cloth, I only used maybe a quarter of it, and I'm going to be recreating this Christmas pillow. As you can see, it was $45 for one, and I'm going to be making 2, and like I said, if I take into consideration the whole piece, cost me $8.50. Now you could also just purchase exactly the same piece or even a different one, so you can flip your pillows around. So I could have made one pillow out of these 2 and had 2 different looking pillows depending on how I feel each day, and flip the pillow around. Or you can buy the same ones and just glue the same ones together. Now I'm going to be using a hot glue to make this pillow. You can sew if you know how. I don't. So I'm going to cut my piece of drop cloth to about an inch longer on 2 sides. Now the reason for this is because I am using the edges of this cloth that are already sewn in, so they're thicker. So the 2 edges are like that, and then the 2 edges aren't. So that way I can create with that little bit over material that thicker edge. So once I am double cutting, and so I'm cutting 2 pieces at once, and then I'm going to hot glue this to the pillow, but only hot gluing the three sides, leaving one open so I can stuff it before I close it up. You can also make these as pillowcases if you have pillows that will fit inside that case. I didn't, but I did have pillow stuffing, so I use that. So I go ahead and I hot glue the thicker edges of the drop cloth to the placemats, and just line them up perfectly on both sides. For the shorter side that is cut, I am folding it over and lining it up perfectly, and then I'm going to hot glue that in. I am snipping the edge of the corner off just so I have a more of a cleaner fold. Now before I hot glue it completely shut, I do stuff it with some pillow stuffing. Now I do the exact same thing on this side where I fold it, but this time I actually hot glued the fold together first. I was just worried that with the stuffing poking through and all this stuff, it was going to be harder to do it the other way, so I hot glued the fold first and then I hot glue it together. These pillows are so great, being that they are so inexpensive if you want to keep them on your front porch for decor. That way, in case your front porch gets snowed on and things like that, it's not too you don't feel too bad if they get ruined. I've never had a pillow get ruined on my front porch, and we do get quite a bit of snow here, but it's also not so bad if they get stolen for any reason. You don't feel bad that you spend $3 on a pillow versus $20-$30 that some of these pillows cost, or in this case $45. Did not go through the full tutorial on the second one, but I did make the second one as well.
Dressed in gold and red, garlands and ribbon thread.
I just love the way these turned out, and I am determined to go get a couple more and create a couple more pillows. I just love pillows, and I think it is a great dupe. Doesn't look exactly the same, but the idea behind it is obviously the same, and I saved myself a ton of money. Well, for my first DIY, I got a ton of bottle brush trees. Some I bought, some I had on hand, and also this board that I had on hand, because we are going to be recreating this lit bottle brush tree centerpiece from Pottery Barn. It goes for about $183, as you saw. Now, some of these bluish green bottle brush trees, I don't love the colors, so we're going to spray paint them with some metallic gold. I did pick up some beige bottle brush trees from Dollar Tree, and I think this gold will complement that color really nice. While the bottle brush trees were drying, I hot glued some deer moss onto the board off camera, and then I took the board out and spray painted with some dark walnut. Now starts the fun part is hot gluing these trees to the board. So these are the beige trees that I picked up at like a taupe color at Dollar Tree. I absolutely love them. I thought that they looked quite high end. Maggie and Co even has ones that are a little bit sitting on like a pedestal. But they're pretty much look this exactly the same, and I picked up three of those. Then I had the rest of them on hand, and I just tried to add variety. The at Pottery Barn you can get all just gold, or you can get ones that have a variety of different colored bottle brush trees as well. So that was my inspiration for mine. Since these were the same, I had three of these that were the same color and the same size. I spaced them out evenly, and then I'm going to fill in with all the rest of them. Once they were all on, I added some small battery operated fairy lights to them. I love how these all came together. It gives you that earthy, rustic vibe that my decor is all about this year. And if you want to see how I'm going to style with these, make sure you are subscribed to my home channel where I share all of my decorating videos. My next project, I picked up this wooden tree. I think it's beautiful as it is, a little bit too much sparkle for my liking, but it was coming off just by rubbing it. So if you don't like the little sparkles, little glitter, you could just take it off. I don't think it was even as much of a glitter as it was. It looked like crystal sugar was on it, but nevertheless, it was still sparkling, so I wanted to, or glittering, I wanted to take that off a little bit. But like I said, the tree looked really good as was, but I had something in my mind that I wanted to do with it. So if I want to, I'm gonna go pick up another one like this and leave it as is. So I got some cinnamon brown and painted the whole tree except the bottom, actually even the bottom part, this with this cinnamon brown because I wanted to recreate this gingerbread tree. I absolutely love the way this looks. Now I could have picked up a very similar looking tree at Dollarama as well that kind of went to the ground and looked more like a ceramic decor piece versus more of the rustic look that this tree has. But I did love the way this tree looked, so I thought I can combine best of both worlds and do this one in that gingerbread tree look. It did only need one coat of paint to cover it all. And then once the paint fully dried, I went in with some puff paint and created a design. I found that this was so much fun to create, and I absolutely enjoyed making this project, so much so that I am thinking about going and getting some more things to add the puff paint to. And here it is. I just love the way it turned out. For my next project, I am remaking one of my projects from last year. I had made several of these bells and I found I wasn't quite using them, so I decided to take one of them and redo the look. There, I have found several different websites that had these bells. The one was this one, which was about $30, and then I also saw them on Pottery Barns, although they were sold out. And so I don't quite know how much they were. Mine was one of those bells that you can pick up at Dollar Rama or Dollar Tree. Sometimes they vary in the shape that they come in, but they're all pretty much the same size. So to create this look, you're going to need some thin rope. You can use thicker rope as well if that's what you want. I opted for thinner rope because that's what it looked like on the picture. And then I just wrapped it around and I went in a couple rows of it. You want to try and space them out evenly. I tried my best without actually measuring. You could also measure so that they're spaced out evenly. And then I mixed up some white acrylic paint with some cornstarch just to make it thicker. If you have some chalk paint, you could use that. I just wanted it to give it a good coverage and also give it a little bit of texture. And then I painted the whole piece with this paint, and it needed 2 coats. This was such an easy DIY, and I think it turned out great, and it's gonna look great in a little Christmas vignette, as part of a little Christmas vignette, or styled on a shelf. These are so popular this year, is just some vintage prints inside a frame. I did print out this Christmas picture, Santa picture that I made, but it did not fit inside the frame. So I was debating what to do, and then Sandra had mentioned she had some fabric she wasn't using, and I thought this would be a perfect thing to use here. So I had picked up this frame from um, Value Village. It was $7.99. I actually love the frame and I didn't mind the print that was in there. So I am carefully going to remove it so I can reuse the frame and safely store the print so that way it doesn't get damaged, because I might be adding it back in and using it as part of my decor outside of Christmas. And for this, I was trying to kind of get the look, the inspiration for this project. It doesn't necessarily look the same, but an inspiration for this project was the same as the inspiration last DIY video I made with prints in it. I'm going to add it here just so you can see what I'm talking about. This obviously isn't an expensive piece at $20. It's very hard to find, and it's even harder if you don't have Target anywhere near you. So I decided to recreate another print because I did needed one more for my master bedroom. And so I took that fabric that Sandra had offered, and I added to it. I put the print first just to use it as a guide. I traced it and then cut it out, and then I added it to the frame. I did make sure that it fit before I reassembled it, and I also gave a little dollop of glue just in a couple corners just to keep the fabric in place so it doesn't move while I'm reassembling the frame. You could also take this frame and paint it or add some rub and buff if that's what you wanted, but I thought this frame looked really pretty without any upcycling needed. So I just kept it as is. For this next project, you're going to need some sort of a Bristol board. I am using one that I had on hand, and I'm going to cut out some strips out of it, 2 strips, because we are going to be making this brass bow tree topper from McGee & Co. It retails for $22 US. I wanted to make this for such a long time, and I was trying to figure out the best way to do it. And then I did see Evelyn Hernandez do a similar look, so I thought I'd try it out. I try it out myself. So I am going to you could measure it so it's exactly the same size as the McGee & Co. inspo. However, I just eyeballed it. I did not need it to be the same size as that one. I really liked the look of it, and that is what I was trying to recreate. So I just took a piece and then I twisted it so that way the two ends meet, and then I into a bow, and then I did that with another piece. And so I took the one strip and I made sure that they are cut the same size. So one will be a little bit longer, and that one will be your bottom, and then the shorter one will be your bow. And then you assemble the bows individually, and then you put them together, and then you put the hanging pieces on it. This was so easy to make. You could make even ornaments like this, make them a little bit smaller. You can make them even bigger. It's all up to you. That's the beauty of making things yourself. You can customize them and make them fit your style or your needs. And you can also paint them or put rub and buff or whatever you want on them. They don't have to be the gold. You can paint them any color you want them to be. So now it's time to assemble it. So I'm going to put these two pieces together, and then I'm going to add the hanging pieces. also cut a little diamond shape to fit right over top of where they were overlapping, because on the original piece, it did have, the one from McGee & Co., it did have a little, it looked like a little piece on top, so that is what I am adding here. And then I took it outside and I spray painted with my bronze color as well as this is antique bronze, and then I also spray painted it with some metallic gold. Then while it was still wet, I brought it inside and used a craft sponge just to blend the paint all together. And once it was dry, I added a little bit of hot glue and craft wire to the back of it so that way I can attach it to the top of my Christmas tree. You could also add a clothespin to it if you would like. I just love how easy this was to make and how beautiful it looks on top of my tree. I have been obsessed with juniper berries this year, but they are impossible to find in my where I live. You can get them on Amazon.com from a floor, but they do not ship to my um, to Ontario. Pottery Barn also has some as well, which are a little too expensive for me. So I decided to make my own. So I went to the on search for some stems that I can use to recreate this. So I picked up these two stems, two different stems. One is looks a little bit frosted because originally I was thinking of using those berries. And then the other one was just a variety of cedar branches with some red berries and some pine cones. So I needed to disassemble everything and create my own. I did decide to make three of these, and I ended up using all the branches, even the frosted ones, but I did not use any pine cones or berries. So here is what they look like. I wish the branches were a touch more droopier, but we can shape them and mold them if that's what we want. I also left the long stems on them because I'm just going to bend them if I need to add them to a shorter vase. I also remember I had some loose cedar branches from a garland and I added those as well. That gave me a bit of more of a droopiness that I was looking for. Since I decided that white berries were too long, was going to make my own using some air dry clay that I had left over from the daycare when we were making Mother's Day presents. So I just wanted to warm up the clay in my hands, and then I just made ones that were not a lot smaller than the white berries, but definitely smaller. And I just rolled them all into little balls. I think I made altogether about 30 of them. However, I think I did not use three of them, so I used 27 altogether. Then I took all of the blue paints that I had, trying to figure out a color that would work the best for these berries. I did end up mixing a couple different colors just to achieve the look that I was going for. I did not wait for these to fully dry before I went ahead and did that. I was going to use this stick to put the berries on for painting, but it was too big, so I just ended up rolling them in the paint. And I forgot to mention that I also got some sugar, just normal sugar. And once I was done rolling them in the paint, I dipped them into sugar. So it gave them a little bit of that frosted look. And then I repeated this process for all of them. A little time consuming, but so worth it. And then I went ahead and I had glued them onto random spots on to my branches. I did look at the picture just to kind of get an idea how the juniper berries were on those fall branches, and I was trying to recreate that look. So here they all are on the branches, and I did allow them to dry fully before I proceeded to the next step. I wasn't planning on doing a next step, but the more I was looking at them, I felt like the blue needed to be tamed down a little bit. So once they were fully dry, I went in with some white paint and just added, and a small brush, and just added a little bit of white paint um to them, just to tone down the blue a little bit. I think these turned out so pretty, and for under, I think it came up to about $11. I can't complain. Next project is another ornament, and this time I picked up these ornaments at a Dollar Tree, and I needed some green ornaments, so we're gonna be making some more suede ornaments, flocked ornaments, without flocking. And I am going to make them green because the tree that I added in my living room, I wanted to make it green. So I painted them all green. I gave them um, 2 coats of color, and between the coats of color paint, I am going to just add some of the iced cappuccino paint to my tops, just to make them look a little bit more vintage. And I am using some wet paper towel to do that. I find if I'm using a brush, it just slides off. So I let the first coat of paint dry before I applied the second coat of paint, but the second coat of paint I did not allow to dry. I added some baking soda to them. I feel like these ornaments, there are so many different but yet similar techniques to creating them, and each and every one of them gives you a slightly different look. So as these might be a little bit repetitive, but um, they're all, like I said, all a little different, and they do give you a unique look. So I love mixing and matching these techniques on my ornaments, so that way I can have a variety of them. And most of my ornaments on a couple of my trees are all homemade ornaments, and they all look a little different. So once it had completely dried, I brushed it all off. At this point, you could, like I said, many different techniques. You can add rub and buff, you can add a sponge on, dab on a little bit of gold paint, but I am going to keep mine just like this. You can also spray some sealant on them, so that way the baking soda stays on permanently, so it doesn't over the years rub off completely. But I just love the way these turned out. I think they are a perfect addition to my new tree in the living room. First DIY, we're starting off with some bells from Dollar Tree and a toilet plunge from Dollar Tree. I picked up 5 of these bells for $1.50. I'm located in Canada, and we are at $1.50. And as you can see, they're a little bit different than the bells that I had made up before. These guys have a bit of a lip. And I'm going to be removing the greenery as well as the bows and berries off of them, so that way I just have a plain bell. And once everything was removed, I do take a cleaning wipe, almost like a degreaser, and give them a good cleaning, so that way I have no problem with paint going on them. And I'm going to be using metallic gold and satin black spray paints to make over these bells. I will be using the wood part of the plunger, and then also some rope. Now the inspiration for this DIY is from Pottery Barn, and I was trying to recreate this look. Now, I do know that the shape of the bells is a little bit different, but I think we can create a very similar look for around $10 instead of $283. So I went outside and gave the bells a coat of black paint, spray paint, and I just tried to spray it as evenly as possible without getting any drips. I wasn't going for 100% coverage. I just wanted to have a nice dark base. And then once I was done on one side, I flipped them and did the other side, and then I let them completely dry before I went in with my metallic gold paint. I picked up this paint at Michael's just because I was using my coupon. And I have to tell you guys, I absolutely love this color of gold. There's just something about it. It's so soft and nice looking. I was quite impressed. There's so many different variations of gold that I was worried, but I absolutely love that one. So here I'm just showing you that if you wanted to have that exact look, I have these little hangers from IKEA, and you could spray and paint them black, but then you would have to drill holes into the wall, or maybe if you already have these up, you could hang up the bells onto it. I am just going to use this piece of wood from the toilet plunger. I'm going to stain it with some paint and two different colors of paint. I just want to clean it up before that sticky part, so that way I can apply the paint evenly, and that way I can hang this up wherever I want. It's not restricted to putting screws into the wall. For the paint, I'm using a Dollar Tree black chalk paint, and I'm just going to dab a rag in it and rub it on. That way some of the wood grain that's on it will show through. I also want to mention that today's video is in collaboration with my dear friend Sandra from the Schwoman's Nest, or the DIYs at the Schwoman's Nest. I have known Sandra for a very, very long time off YouTube, and now we are obviously friends on YouTube as well. We used to be neighbors at one point, but now we live a couple streets over, and I love Sandra's channel. I think Sandra is one of the most creative people I know. Her DIYs are amazing. So if you have never seen Sandra's channel, make sure you head on over. I will have her channel linked down below for you to check out, and make sure you tell her that I have sent you over there. And if you're stopping by from Sandra's channel, welcome. My name is Sonia, like I said, and I'm glad that you're here. I hope you enjoy my DIYs, and make sure you let me know that you are stopping by from her channel. So once I was done with black chalk paint, I did go in again while it was still somewhat wet and applied some of the metallic gold acrylic paint, same way as I did the chalk paint, just rubbing it on and blending it in. This just made it look a little bit antique in my opinion. And make sure you paint the ends as well. So while I was painting that, my bells have dried completely, and now I'm going to be adding some ropes to them through the exact holes that the greenery was threaded through. Now on the picture, the rope is a little bit thicker, but that's okay. I'm just going to use what I have, and I love the look that it ends up turning out with that thinner rope. So all I'm gonna do is cut rope in 5 different lengths, so that way when I hang them up, they're all gonna drop down in different lengths. I'm going to thread the rope through the hole, tie it, and then that knot that I tied it, I'm going to thread it back through the hole so that way it's on the inside of the bell. And then so then I'll have a loop, and at the bottom of the loop I'm going to take another piece of rope and just wrap it around, so that way it gives it that look that the bells have on this picture that you can see. I repeat the whole process on all the bells, and then I take my piece of wood and hang them all up. You want to play around to see how they fit the best, or what you like the best in staggering the lengths. I absolutely love the way this turned out. I think the paint is perfect on them, and I am so happy for just $10 what this cost me in materials. Couldn't be more pleased. For my next DIY, I picked these up at your dollar store and more, but I have seen similar ones at Dollar Tree as well. Now, this is the one that is kind of an not a Pottery Barn dupe, but it is a high-end dupe. I've seen these all over Etsy shops, and Indigo has them for $40. I think they might be on sale now. And they're charcuterie boards. Now, I wasn't going to use mine on a charcuterie board. I'm sure you could if you used a proper sealer that is food safe. You could, but I just wanted a little wood board in the shape of a gingerbread man to go against the Christmas charcuterie board I have in my kitchen on a display. I couldn't find one anywhere in the store except, like I said, Indigo had one, but I'm gonna drop a picture of it here so you can see what that looked like. And I did not love the gold buttons that it had. I think at the beginning of the season I did see one at HomeSense as well, but I just didn't pick it up. So nevertheless, I proceeded on making one myself. So I removed all the buttons and the little bow ties, and I'm obviously going to remove the price tags. And like I said, I got this for $1.30, I think it was, at your dollar store and more, or with more. It's a dollar store it's almost like, I would say, comparable to Dollar General in US. And the reason why I picked up two is because I wanted it to be thicker. And so where I had removed all those buttons and bow tie, I am going to glue those two sides together using wood glue and hot glue gun. My wood glue is a little bit thick, so I am using a brush to spread it around, and the little lid was all clogged up anyways. And the hot glue is just there to keep it in place, to give the wood glue time to cure and set. And I'm using little clamps just to hold it together for a little bit. So I will be using the very thin special walnut stain. It is a stain that I have on hand and I like. You can use any stain. You can even use watered down paint if you want. I think you're going to get a very similar look. I am not going to seal this again because, like I said, I'm not using it for anything other than just display. My stain was a little bit thick. I've had it now for almost a year and I haven't used it. So I did decide to put on some gloves. Probably should have put on both of my hands, but just so my fingers don't get too stained. And I really like this technique. I think it just shows, even though this is like particle board, it's not really wood. It shows all the little wood grains that it has, and you just want to go in that direction. And I love how simple this project was. I love the way it turned out. It was exactly what I was looking for. And I think it's gonna look great in my kitchen. And it cost me $2, $3 tops. And I did decide to stain both sides and then also the sides as well. What do you guys think? I think it looks perfect. For my next DIY, I picked up this snowflake at Dollarama for, I think it was $1.50. But I do know that, yes, I do know that Dollar Tree carries them similar snowflakes as well. And I saw an inspiration at Kirkland's. And even though this wasn't overly expensive, I think we can do it for a lot cheaper. Everything else, all the materials that I used to complete this project, I had on hand. So really this only cost me $1.50 plus tax. So once I had that pesky tag taken off, I am going to leave the rope on just because I'm not sure whether I'm going to hang it up or just lean it up against something. So I just wanted to have that option. So I went out and I spray painted with Rust-Oleum chalk paint in white. And I just gave it a decent amount to cover everything. And once that was dry, which did not take very long to dry at all. So here it is, as you can see, it's all painted. I only did the one side. I brought it in now. At this time, I thought I was going to sand off the distressing because on that snowflake, it was distressed. It had like parts that were kind of sanded off, but this was not working for me. So I decided to use warm beige acrylic paint and dry brush it on all the edges or wherever I felt like it needed to be brushed on. So I tried two different brushes. The first one did not work the way I wanted it. So I ended up getting this other brush that was more flat and kind of fanned out, and that worked much better. I don't think the warm beige was showing very well on the camera. Even here you can see it a little bit, but not as much as I would have liked it. But I think it gave the snowflake some dimension, and I love the way it turned out. So simple. This next DIY is probably one of my favorites besides another one of my favorites besides the bells. And we've all seen these Christmas trees. This particular one I saw at Kirkland's, and they are for about 16-inch one. They are about around $40 US. I know the Pottery Barn has their own version. I think even Bath and Beyond, if you have a store like that. We don't anymore. Has one for around $40 as well. I picked this up for, I think it was $3 or $4 at Dollarama, and I ended up painting it with that warm beige and cinnamon bun acrylic paint. I mixed those two together, and then the second coat I did add some baking soda to it just to add a little bit of texture to it. So once it was dry, I did want to remove that price tag off of it. So like I said, this came from Dollarama and it was $3, not $4. So I don't know if you can see on camera very well, but there is a ton of texture from that baking soda. Now I'm going to take my hot glue gun and add design. You can use puffy paint if you have some. I did not have any, so I just use my glue gun and it kind of created the same look. I did this several years back and I made gingerbread houses using the same technique, so I figured I could use it again. You just have to make sure that you don't have any of those stringy flyaways that the hot glue gun causes. So I tried to follow the same pattern as it was on the dupe, the piece that I was duping. And then I went in once the hot glue gun has dried. Once the hot glue has dried, I went in with Old Ochre from Annie Sloan. It's chalk paint, and I just went over it. And here I am trying to remove those little stringy things. So I just went over all of the glue. And then I'm going to go in with a different paintbrush, and just fill in so it looks like there's a fallen snow on it. Just thicken up in certain areas. I also covered the little dots with the paint as well, because that's what the picture was showing. It almost seemed like there was maybe some shimmer to it as well. I did not add any shimmer to mine because I'm not the shimmer kind of person, but you totally could add a little bit of glitter while the paint's wet and just sprinkle some on it. I think that would work quite well as well. So this was fairly easy to make, and I think this was very close to the piece that was at the store. And like I said, mine cost me $3 plus tax, and that one was $40. What do you guys think? Did I do a pretty good job in duping this piece? So we're starting off with a thrifted item, and I'm using some black acrylic paint, some cornstarch. Thrifted item is this deer, and I got it for $10. Was a little bit high, but I really like the size of it. And then I also picked up some Dollar Tree deers to go with it, so 2 of those glass ones. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to mix up the paint by adding cornstarch and black acrylic paint together. I want to create a textured paint, a little bit thicker consistency than what chalk paint would give you, because I really want the brush strokes to show up, especially on this big large deer, to almost give it a look like the fur looks on him in real life. So that's what I was trying to recreate with this textured paint. So I start off with really adding equal amounts of paint to cornstarch, and then you'll see how thick your paint is and how thick you want your paint to be. I did end up adding a touch more paint just because it was a little bit thicker than I wanted it to be. And once I reached the correct consistency for my liking, I end up painting the whole thing, and I am using a bristle brush just because, like I said, I want to really show those brush strokes. Because the paint was so thick, I did not need to do it two coats. However, I did really want to get into all the nooks and crevices, so I am using a smaller paintbrush for that, just to make sure I cover all that blue sparkle that was this deer was painted with. Now I am also going to be doing the exact same thing with these glass deers. Now this the coverage wasn't going on as well as with the other one, so this did need two coats. And this is what they look like after two coats of paint. If you are following along on my home channel, you probably saw that a lot of my new decor is black, and I wanted to incorporate some of that black into my Christmas decor as well, and I think these deers are a perfect addition to that. For my next DIY, I will be using black and bronze chalk paint, as well as these small little ornaments. I have seen these at Dollar Tree and at Dollarama, and I'm also going to be using some jute rope, or you can use twine. Now my ornaments did come from Dollar Tree, but like I said, I've seen them at any dollar store. And then I was going to use some sanding block too, but at the end I never ended up using it. So the first thing that I am doing is giving it a coat of a bronze spray paint, and then I'm going to add a little bit of the black spray paint to it as well, but not covering it fully. I am covering it more with the bronze, and then I'm just going to do little sprays of black on them. I wanted to create more of that aged look on them. I am really liking the rustic color, less rustic ornaments this year to go with some of the black accents that I will be using in my Christmas decor. So now I'm going to use that twine and cut it up to the length that I need it to be. I am going to be putting this on my large fireplace upstairs, so I wanted to make sure that it fits. So if you are doing this DIY yourself, you might want to measure out where you want this to go and cut the twine to that size. And then I'm taking more twine and cutting it into smaller pieces, about 2 inches. I'm going to use that to tie the ornaments to the other twine. Now I'm creating a loop at the end so that way I can hang this up, and I will be doing this on both ends of this rope. And I'm going to trim the piece hanging over from the loop. And then once I have my loops all set up, I'm going to start by adding the ornaments, and I'm tying the rope to the ornament, and then I'm tying the ornament to the rope. And I repeat this for all the ornaments, spacing them out somewhat evenly. You will be able to move them around once they are on the rope anyway, so it doesn't really matter if you space them out evenly right now. You can always adjust them later. If this is your first time stopping by my channel, welcome. My name is Sonia, and on this channel you will find tons of home decor DIYs from seasonal to DIY projects around the house, as well as just a general DIY decor. So if this is something that you think you might enjoy and you are enjoying this video, I would encourage you to press the subscribe button and notification bell so you get notified when I post new videos. I am starting my Christmas decor DIYs now, and I already posted a mega one. If you've missed it, it will be linked at the end, so go check that one out. That one will give you a ton of inspirations for your DIY decor. I just love the way this garland turned out, and I think it's going to look so good with my brand new cedar garland that I had just purchased at HomeSense. For my next DIY, I am going to be making over or upcycling my wreaths. I have had these wreaths for many years, and it was time to give them a new life. So I have some greenery that I was considering using, like this bunch of leaves, and then I also had some eucalyptus leaves that I was thinking of using, and then I also picked up some of these Christmas picks from Dollar Tree just recently, and definitely was thinking of using those. And then I also have these berries. Now I was trying to find black ones at Dollar Tree and I couldn't, and I did not want to go to Michael's and spend the money, so I will be spray painting these with the black chalk paint. I am giving them a light coat, so some of that red will show through a little bit, but I really like the whole look that it gave it. So if you don't want any of the redness to show, make sure you give it a full coat of spray paint. I am going to be cutting these this greenery picks from Dollar Tree into pieces. So I'm just taking each branch and cutting it off, and then I'm going to strategically place them all over the wreath. This is what I'm doing with all of them, and just spacing them out somewhat evenly throughout the wreath. I did have a pretty good pair of wire cutters, but my mother-in-law had borrowed them and I haven't had a chance to get them back from her. So I was struggling cutting these a little bit, but nevertheless, I did get them cut using scissors and smaller wire cutters. This was such an inexpensive makeover for these wreaths. It literally cost me $6 altogether, because I've had purchased everything at the dollar store, and some of the items that I did use, like the berries, and then I actually decided to use some pine cones as well, I had on hand. So I wanted to show you what it looks like, this wreath looks like before I added the berries with all the new greenery that I have added. It just made it look a little bit more fuller than what it was before. And now I'm adding 3 branches per wreath because I just wanted a touch of it without overwhelming it. And here is what that looks like with the berries. I think it was perfect, but I did feel at this time that I needed a little bit more. And so I went ahead and got my pine cones out and I added 5 per wreath. Now I wanted to also say that this is a bit of a high-end dupe because I did see several of these in HomeSense, very similar ones. So, and that's where I got the idea for the ones that I had at home already. And the ones at HomeSense were $39.99. So, and mine, because I had the wreath and then all the materials that I purchased came out to $6 per wreath, and I did 2 of these because I have two doors at the front. So here is what it looks like, and I can't wait to use it on my front door once I decorate my front porch. Here are the supplies that I had purchased. Some of the supplies I already had on hand. So this set of blue and silver ornaments came from Dollarama. They were $4 for the whole set. I will be only using the silver ones. I really wanted ones that had a bit of like dimension to them. And then I also picked up 2 sets of these, so 4 altogether. These are from Dollarama as well. Dollar Tree carries them as well. They're a little bit bigger. And then some other ornaments that I had had on hand were the flat ones that Dollar Tree sells. I got mine at Michael's last year on clearance. I think the whole box of them was like $7, but you can get them for $1.50 at Dollar Tree. So I'm starting off with the silver ornaments. I am outside. And I just filled this bottle with some water, and I'm spraying it well with water. And you want those driplets to be on there. And then immediately after, I'm going to take my spray paint. I am using dark walnut. You can use black. I thought I was using black, but it was dark walnut and it turned out well. I don't mind the way they turned out at all. It did give me the look that I was going for. And then you let them dry. And that's it for the ornament. So you just want to give yourself some space from spray painting so you don't spray too heavy. And then I repeated the same step with the rest of the silver ornaments. I also spray painted the tops of these ornaments with the same walnut color. I love how antique they turned out. It just elevated that silver look that they were. And I love how the little droplets show up on it. And I put some on my tree with some fancy ribbon. And then I just added some to my bowl of ornaments. Next, still working outside, I took the tops of the clear ornaments and I spray painted them with this antique bronze color. This spray paint came from your dollar store and more. Sometimes they have like odd looking colors, not your primary colors, and they are significantly cheaper there. I think I picked this up for $4 and I've used this several times already. I'm just using very little just for these caps here. You can do this with paint, just regular paint. You don't have to do this at all. You can just leave them silver. Black looks good as well. Some people have luck with rub and buff. I don't, but I don't actually have rub and buff. I have the antiquing wax, so maybe that's the difference. And now I'm back with this dark walnut satin color, and I'm spray painting 2 of these with that spray paint. As you can see, I struggled a little bit, so I put them in this container so they would not flip. So probably a good piece of styrofoam would work better. I cannot stand the sound of styrofoam, so that did not work for me. So I gave this a solid coat. You don't want to spray too long on one area because it'll drip. So we are now back inside, and once they were completely dry, I took out my crafting sponge, dabbed on a little bit of gold, and then I dabbed some of it off, and then I just sponged the whole ornament with that. I am using spun gold. You can use any gold you have on hand. So once it was completely covered, well, to the way I wanted it to, I took another sponge, crafting sponge, and this metallic brown color, and it's almost again like that bronzish color. And I proceeded to do the same exact process as with the gold. And once I covered the whole area again, I let that dry, and then I did the exact same thing for the other ornament. I think these turned out absolutely stunning. I just love the way they look. And again, I added the ribbon to hang them on a tree. For my next clear ornaments, I have had this tissue on hand. It is just tissue, white tissue paper. You can use any color you want. I really did want just white. And I'm going to tear it up, and we're going back to basics of crafting, and we're going to do some paper macheing. And if my memory serves me right, I hope I mixed up my paper mache mixture right. I just added some water into the flour. Once I had my tissue ready and my solution ready, I went ahead and started paper macheing. And if you've never done this before, you just cover either an area or the whole thing, and then you add your paper, and then you put more paper mache solution on top of it, and then you want to let it completely dry before adding more to it. And depending on what kind of a coverage you want, you can do two steps, or you can do more steps. I only did two, and I am so pleased with the end result. For next two DIYs, I'm going to be using the flat ornaments. I call them flat. You will see them in just a second. And for the first two, I'm going to use this Annie Sloan Old Ochre chalk paint. You don't need to use old chalk paint. This was the only beige looking paint I had. I was going to use acrylic, but I did not have any beige color, so the chalk paint to the rescue. And then I'm also going to use ice cappuccino as well as brush gold acrylic paint, and you will need some of those crafting brushes again that we just used in the previous DIY. And for the caps, I will be just painting them with some gold color at the end. So the first step is to take the beige color and paint the whole ornament with that beige color. So once the ornament is completely painted, you don't want to wait for it to dry before you move on to the next step. So the next step is going to be to take your sponge. Now you can wet these, I did not, and dab them into the ice cappuccino, and then dab some off and just dab it, sponge it on the ornament. And you want to blend as you're sponging on because your other paint is still wet. And then you're going to repeat the same process with the gold as well before anything dries, so that way you can blend all the colors well together. Wanted my ornament to be a little of a lighter color. If you want it darker, I would go a little bit heavier with the darker color. And then while it's still wet, you take your flour and you cover the whole ornament with flour and you let that dry. And while that was drying, I went ahead and painted the same way my other ornament, and you will see how two of them turned out just slightly different. And that's the best part about making your own ornaments, not one is the same. So once it was dry, I took a clean brush, a bigger one, and just brushed everything, all the flour off. I like using the bristle brush for this. I think it works the best. So here is how that looks at this point, and now I'm going to put the cap on it and paint the cap. And here they both are on the tree. I think they turned out so nice. I just love the really different texture that they are and the look that they have. So for the last ornament that I'm going to be making, I'm using the same clear ornament and I'm painting it with that ice cappuccino, the whole thing with it. And again, before you move on to the next step, you're not gonna let the paint dry. So for the next step, I'm going to take baking soda and I'm going to sprinkle it on, covering the whole ornament, and then you're gonna let that ornament dry. So once it dried, I brushed the baking soda off the same way as I did the flour, and then taking the same colors that I used for the previous ornament and just sponging them on. However, I'm obviously sponging on the beige color and the gold color and just blending them together. This is just to show you how using the same colors, what a different look it can give you. Just a couple different switching out couple different steps and you get a completely different look, but still using the exact same colors, so that way you don't waste any colors that are left if you pour them into the bowl like I did. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed these DIYs. I absolutely love the way they all turned out, and they look amazing on my flock tree, which now consists of mostly DIY ornaments. If you guys do not know, I have a home channel where I share all my decorating that I do in my home, and the channel is linked down below for you to check out, and you can see how I showcase a lot of my DIYs that I make. First one that I'm working on came from Value Village, and a friend actually dropped it off. She picked it up, thought of me when she saw it, and knew I could do something with it to make it look a little bit more beautiful. The eyes on this thing were a little bit freaking me out, so I did remove them, as well as this pom-pom that was stuck on here forever. I could not get this off whatsoever. It struggled for a bit. I used a butter knife to try and get it off, but I was afraid I was gonna like cut my finger with the butter knife. But these shears seem to work a little bit better. They're like the metal cutting shears, but I more or less use them as a just to grab on to the pom-pom. So I wanted to say thank you so much for pressing play and watching this video. If you are stopping by for the very first time, my name is Sonia, and over in this channel I share lots of different types of DIYs, seasonal as well as home makeover DIYs, furniture makeovers, and just DIYs in general. So if this is something that interests you, make sure you hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you get notified when the new videos pop up. So once I removed it, I took a sanding block and just sanded the little bit of glue that was left on it. I do feel that I need to get a new sanding block because the sanding part on it was almost worn out. I did have to use a little bit of a craft knife just to scrape some of it off. Now I was going to dilute my Annie Sloan chalk paint and use it as a stain, but then I remembered that I did purchase this chalk paint at Dollar Tree and remembered how watery it was. So that is what I used, and I just poured directly on it for the first part, spread it out, and then I took a rag and just rubbed it off. And I repeated this process several times. I wanted to make sure that all the areas were not evenly covered up, but nicely covered up. I love doing this type of staining. It just gives it a bit of a different look, I guess, than actually using a stain. Similar look, but there is a bit of a difference. So I did this to the whole deer. It was nice that I could take it apart and do this. It would have been a little bit harder if I was all put together and glued together, because then I wouldn't be able to get into all the crevices. This is messy, so be prepared to get your hands dirty or wear gloves if you don't like to get your hands dirty. I don't love wearing gloves. I wish I did, because I'm always have black nails from paint or whatever paint I'm using that's on my nails, and sometimes it's harder to take off. But I just don't love the way the nails feel. So I just, like I said, kept doing this until I reach the desired look I was going for. So here it is, the whole piece painted or stained, and now I wanted to give him a little bit of decoration around his neck. So I had a piece of jute rope that I tied around like a nautical rope, and then I dug through my Christmas stash and found a little greenery and berry and pinecone decoration. That this actually came off of my old wreath, as well as a little jingle bell that I was going to tie around it with just a piece of twine. I think this just gave him a little bit of decoration because he was very, very simple, but I kind of like how simple he looked. Did not love the eyes, so glad I removed those, and I didn't love the red pom-pom for a nose. I think the deer was cute at one point, but we wanted to give him a bit of a more sophisticated look. I think he's going to look really good on my front porch. So once I tied this up, I did add a little bit of glue just to hold everything in place. For my next DIY, I picked up these bells. Now, to me, these bells looked fairly new. I have not seen them around here anywhere, but I've seen them online at Walmart, so I'm not sure whether that's where these guys came from. And I just wanted to give them a little bit of a gold color, since that was all the bells in my house. were kind of a goldish color. So I tried painting them just with the paint, acrylic paint, and I use spun gold for this. But I did find that the coverage wasn't quite what I was hoping for. So I put one coat of this, just a light coat of just paint on its own. And then for the second coat, once they had time to dry, I added a little bit of baking soda to my paint and painted them with that. That gave it a little bit of texture, but I was still leaving some of that dark bronze to kind of look poke through in certain areas. So for the other two, I just went directly with a thicker paint. I just felt that that worked a little bit better, and there wasn't need to do two coats. Once they were dry, to add them to my banister, I just used some twine and tied it up. For my next DIY, I'm using these little hooks because I'm going to be attaching them to these things, and this is a foot. I assume it's a furniture foot. It was an odd piece at a thrift store, so I decided to turn it into an ornament, kind of like a finial ornament. I love these. I've seen them at Walmart. I think my Texas house has maybe a little bit bigger ones, but or my Texas home. I really like this. You could also use spindles. If you have spindles on hand, you can sand them down or paint them and hang them up. Use them as ornaments as well. I think that would work out well too. So I really liked the natural color, so I did not touch it. You could obviously stain it, paint it, or do whatever you want. Because my front tree in my house, and if you had missed my home tour or any of my decorating videos over on my home channel, make sure you check them out. The link to my home channel is in the description box. But I liked using I like the fact that it was natural wood, because that's the kind of the direction that I want that tree at the front to go, a more of a rustic natural look. So I've been slowly switching out ornaments on there. It's a 9-foot tree, so it is a pretty expensive thing to do, to switch out all the ornaments. So I've been doing it slowly, making some and things like that. So I think this ornament's gonna look really good there. So there was a hole there, so I put through the rope. Originally I was thinking of using the S-hook, but I've decided this might be a little bit of an easier way. So I put a little bit of glue into the hole, and then I made a loop, tied a loop with a rope, and then I pushed the one end of the loop in there, and then I glued it, and then I put some wood glue, threaded it through the little dowel on top, or whatever that's called, and then I put a little bit more hot glue just to hold it in place while the wood glue takes time to cure. You don't want to obviously hang this up right away. You want to let it sit and wait, and that's it. first project I'm working on is something I wanted to create for a very long time. So I'm using some tins, a gift basket, a big gift box, glass bowl, half a plastic ornament, and a styrofoam ball that I cut off just the end to fit on top of the largest canister. I'm going to be hot gluing these items to the top, so you want to just find something that creates a dome and it fits perfectly on the top of the canister that you are using. I'm using wide variety just to get the different heights. And I'm going to be recreating these vintage cowbells. These are large cowbells, and here in Canada, they're hard to come by. So always have to resort to shopping online. And on Amazon, they're around $50, and they go all the way up to Wayfair for over $200. Now, I'm recreating this for free because I did have all these supplies at home on hand. You don't have to use tins, you can use anything that resembles the bell base. And then for the dome, same thing. You can cut off foam balls to put on top, even the foam balls that the bouncy balls that are kind of squishy, they work well as well. Anything that creates that dome shape, like I said. The next item that you're going to need is a drywall compound, and this will blend the whole thing together. Um, so that's why I didn't remove any stickers, and the David's tea canisters have the David's tea writing, it's a little raised. So I didn't worry about any of that because the compound will cover it up. And you can also use a compound to create that hammered metal look that those bells have. You can make it as smooth as you want or as rough as you like. I went with a more of a rough look because that's what I prefer, but the beauty of creating your own DIYs is that you can make them look any way you want. I even added a little lines at the bottom because some of the bells that I've seen have those kind of uh, a divot at the bottom, so that's what I created, and they're a little bit of chunkier on top to create the line that they have on the original pieces. Like I said, totally up to you. This is simply an inspiration piece that I'm trying to recreate. So I did this with both of them and with all three of them, and you have to allow 24 hours of drying time, especially if you go heavy with the drywall compound. You don't have to have the large container of it. Those small ones that are pink and then turn white when they're done will work just as well. I just had that on hand. Next item that you're going to need is some sort of a roll. This could be toilet paper, paper towel. I am using a shelf liner roll just because I do use a clear shelf liner for a lot of laminating stuff for my daycare supplies. So I always have these rolls on hand and I use them for different crafting with the daycare as well. So I'm cutting off 3 rings. I did end up cutting four because one of them did not turn out. And then I also had to go in and trim it. And this is simply because that roll is quite hard and it was getting squished and a little misshapen. And then I cut just one right in the middle and one cut to open it up. And this will be your loop for the top of the bells. So I'm going to use hot glue gun to glue these on. You want to allow the hot glue to completely dry before doing anything with them. Now I'm going to paint them, and for painting, I am going to mix up 3 different gold colors. One is spun gold, the other one is yellow gold, and the third one is metallic gold. And this just gave me different dimensions on the bell with almost like different shading, and that is what I was trying to achieve. So I'm not blending the paints on a plate together. I'm going to be dipping my paintbrush into all 3 paints at the same time and then painting with it. And I love the coloring that this created.
Go outside. outside, the snow is falling down, and every child is having so much fun. The snowman is twice the size as me, with a smile as quirky as mine. We're holding hands to keep each other warm while we stand and watch a choir performing all the Christmas songs that we love. Yeah, all the Christmas songs that we love. And in a while we're gonna go inside and drink our chocolate by the fire.
And here they are all painted. And now to add a bit more depth to the design, to the bells, I am adding some iced cappuccino, which is just a nice shiny brown color. And to it I'm gonna add brown umber or burnt umber to just darken it up a little bit. And I'm just going to place this color, this paint on random spots, and then I'm going to take a wet paper towel and blend it all in. This will just give it a little bit more depth, kind of accenting all the different textures that are on the bell.
'Cause all I want is to spend this day with you. Let me give you a Christmas, a moment we'll fill with love and joy. So beautiful.
And to complete the look, I tied some rope to them. I think this turned out so nice, and I think it's a great dupe. And if you love bells as much as I do, then definitely give this project a try. And I also want to mention, if you want to see how I style these in my home, make sure you check out my home channel where I share all of my decorating ideas, tips, and all the fun stuff that is home decor related on that channel. Link is in the description box. For my next project, we are going to be making some ribbons. This is simply for the convenience, not necessarily saving money, although I am saving money because I've had the supplies on hand. And the one thing that's really popular is a linen ribbon this year. Amazon does have a great selection of them, and they're not overly priced. As you can see, a spool of it is $17.99 on Amazon Canada. Sure, it's cheaper on US site. I've had this linen curtain in my stash. I've been using it for different projects throughout the year. So I wanted to just cut up a couple of ribbons for my front tree, which I totally changed the look of it this year. And I'm very excited with the way it's looking. And this ribbon was a great addition to it. So you want to cut out strips in the width that you would like your ribbon to look like. And once you have it cut out, you want to fringe the ends, so that way it creates that fringed look that those ribbons have. You can cut this ribbon as wide as you want, especially if you're making bows for the tree, or you can cut them real narrow to tie your ornaments onto the tree with. The choice is yours. And I just love the fact that I can customize this as to anything that I need it for. And you can make a ribbon out of velvet, out of any kind of a easy flowing material that you have on hand, any fabric that you have on hand. If you want to reuse some of that fabric that you may be just having laying around your house. I like making pillowcases out of curtain fabrics. I like just for decorations, obviously. They're great. You can even make tree skirts with random fabric. It's really versatile what you can make out of, and it's free.
Kissing on a mistletoe's baby with you. I don't need any presents as long as I spend this day with you. So beautiful, kissing on a mistletoe's baby with you. Ooh. I'm making plans for what we're gonna do. I feel so blessed that I can be with you. 'Cause God knows.
To add these ribbons to my tree, I took some crafting wire and I thread it through the loop, and then I'm going to use the ends to wrap it around the tree branches.
I Been longing for you, just wanna hold you close. You know the stars are shining just for you. Let's take a walk, and we can follow the moonlight till we reach a place we can stay. Maybe kiss a bit and dream away. And in a while we're gonna go inside and drink our chocolate.
I absolutely love the way this ribbon looks on my tree, and as you can see, it's sitting right next door to my few DIYs ago ornaments that I've made.
Cause all I want is to spend this day with you. Let me give
And it
you
wouldn't
a
be Christmas
Christmas.
DIYs if I wasn't making some sort of an ornament. And I just want to share with you all the different techniques that you can use to create your own ornaments that fit your style. We are recreating these textured ornaments from Crate and Barrel, and I picked these up at Value Village. They were $2.99 originally. I think they're like $3.44 at Walmart. So not huge savings, but they are a little bit cheaper than getting them at Dollar Tree. Now I wanted to paint these in a dark, almost that burgundy, dark, deep red. But I didn't have the deep red color, so I just took the deep red that I had and added some of that burnt umber to it, and this gave it that deep darker color. I have added a new Christmas tree in my living room. Well, new to the living room Christmas tree. It's not a new Christmas tree to me. And I want to add ornaments to it that give me that moody vibe. So this is why I'm going with the deep red color. You can obviously make them any color you want. And then I added some baking soda. However, I did add a little too much. So it was a little bit harder for me to paint them, more of dabbing the paint on because it was very, very thick. Could have added more paint and just kind of worked with it until I got the texture that was easy pliable. But so my advice to you is just add a little less baking soda to it because this puffed up pretty pretty high, and like I said, but I made it work. It was a little bit it gave me that chunky look that I was going for. I did wet my brush just so it's a little bit easier to apply. And you want the whole ornament to be covered with the red color. It doesn't necessarily have to be fully covered that you can't see through it. So I was going for that textured look, and I think this ornament is exactly that. So right after I painted all of them, I added some flour to them. I love using flour to add, I don't even know, it gives it that almost like a textured smooth look. And you want this to completely dry. I did let mine dry for overnight, but it's not necessary. So while the ornaments were drying, I painted the caps, and I used ice cappuccino acrylic paint for that, as well as my sponge. I always find that it's easier to sponge the paint onto the caps unless you're spray painting than actually painting it, because I find the paint just slides off. If you are using a paintbrush, I would just go gently dabbing instead of actually brushing. And then once I added paint, the ice cappuccino paint, I did go to all of them. I did go in with a little bit of black, just blending everything in. And that gave me that antique rustic look on the caps. So once the ornaments were completely dry, I brushed all the flour off that was loose. Now for the next step, you can use Rub and Buff. I am running very low on it, so I just ended up using some of my paints, and I'm going to go in with metallic gold. This is an acrylic paint that I got at Dollar Tree, and I just put it into the bottom of the Ziploc bag, put the ornament in, and then I just squished it and moved it around inside the bag. And I love the different painting technique this is, and it gives the ornament even more texture, and it randomly covers it. There's no like a smooth finish to it. I just wanted a random finish, and that is exactly what happens in this bag when you're painting it this way. So here is what it looks like. And I did this to all of them, and then I ended up adding some nice ribbon to it. I went with black because I am going for that moody look. And I love the way this looks. It looks so custom and it looks vintage, and I love all the different textures and lines that are showing through in this ornament.
I don't need any presents as long as
Now, to add even more twinkle to my DIYs, I am going to be recreating these LED fog branches from Pottery Barn. These are quite expensive for set of 6. I will be creating set of 4 just because I did not need 6 of them. I was thinking of painting the branches black, but then I decided just to leave them as they are. They are just clippings from my garden. And then I'm also going to use some lighting. I picked these lights, LED lights from Dollarama for $2.50. They are on a timer as well. So I thought that's a great thing because I can just place them, turn them on, and forget about them. And to attach them to the branches, I'm going to use craft wire that came as close as possible to the color of the branches. I cut up about 12 little pieces of wire and used pretty much the all 12 for the 2 branches. And I'm going to be adding one set of lights for both branches, so kind of adding them together. Now to add the lights to the branches, I'm going to unravel the lights. I'm going to put them as close to the stick, going up and down the sticks as possible. And every inch and a half, I'm going maybe 2 inches, I'm going to wrap the wire around. So that way this will keep the lights in place, flush up against the branches. The nice thing about these lights, the wire that they are on, is that it's bendy and you can shape it and you can even wrap it around the branches.
I spend this day with you. So beautiful, kissing on a mistletoe, baby, with you. Ooh, 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 ooh. And in a while, we're gonna go inside and drink our chocolate.
Now, when I get close to the end of the first stick, I'm not going all the way down because it's not necessary. Because that's going to be the part that's going to be submerged in a vase. Now, if you wanted to put these in a clear vase and you still wanted the inside of the vase to be lit up, then I would just continue all the way to the bottom, but then you might not have enough for the second one. So I would just go back up again and rewrap the whole branch and then just do a separate light for the next branch. I am, however, going to just use them in my vases along with my the greenery stems that I have, just to add a little bit of lighting to the vase. So I didn't need to go all the way to the bottom. And then I repeat the same way of attaching the lights to the second branch as I did with the first branch. I think they look so nice in the vase, and like I said, it just adds that little bit of sparkle to my vases, a little bit of whimsical touch, especially in the evenings when all the lights are off, and it just makes the whole space look cozy. Like I said, I attached them to I added them to 2 different vases in my decor.
Cause all I want is to spend this day with you. Let me give you a
For
Christmas.
my next DIY, I couldn't believe my luck when I went thrifting and I found this Sherpa blanket for $11.50. It is quite a large blanket and I knew exactly what I wanted to use it for. And I wanted to create Mr. and Mrs. Spice from Pottery Barn. These are $90 each. And I knew I could create this with using about a quarter of this blanket and some ribbon. So I went ahead and I drew out a free-handed um, a form for both of them. I just drew half of it and then I folded so that way they were even sizes on both ends, if that makes sense. And I did it, I have an easel paper that I use for daycare, and I just did that on there, so it's quite large. Then I took a marker and I traced it onto the blanket, and the other side of the blanket is just fleece, whereas this is sherpa, and I used both of them, so one side is fleece and the other one is sherpa, even on the pillows. Now there are several different ways that you can put this pillow together. I am probably showing you the easiest. Well, anyways, for me it's the easiest. So you can cut out the forms and sew the pillowcases together. I do not know how to sew using a sewing machine. My mom is on vacation, so that probably would have been the easiest way for me to do, is to get her to sew the pillows together and just leaving a slit so I can stuff it, and then I would have hand stitched the closing. You could also hand stitch the whole thing, which I thought it was just going to be too much work for me. Again, everybody's different. You might find sewing to be a relaxing activity. I do not like to sew, or do I not? Or I can sew by hand because that's one thing that we learned in school, but I cannot sew using a machine. So anyways, once I cut it out, I will be using a hot glue. If you've been around my channel for a while, I often use hot glue to um, create pillows because I do find for me it is the easiest way to do it. So you choose how you want to put this pillow together, is what I'm trying to say. But if you do choose to, I guess even sew it or hot glue it, do it inside out so that way all your stitching and all your gluing is on the inside, not on the outside. And I left the side of his stomach, one of the sides of his stomach open so that way I can stuff it with some pillow stuffing. And if you are using a hot glue to do this, use some sort of a tool to press the fabric down because you will burn yourself. Or you could even flip it around, and the thicker side, like the Sherpa side, would have probably been a smarter side for me to press down on, as it was thicker. So I did burn myself a few times. So just be careful of that. So once it was done, you want to completely dry it so that way when you're pulling it apart by flipping it inside out or outside in, you don't burn yourself. So I just did my Mr. Spice first, and then I went in and did my Mrs. Spice while Mr. Spice was drying. So once he was dry, I went ahead and I turned him inside out or outside in.
Moment we'll fill with love and joy. Loving so beautiful, kissing on a mistletoe, baby, with you, with you. I don't need any presents as long as
You want to go in there and push out all of his arms and feet and head, all of that out so that way it's the right shape and it's not folded. Also check around and see if there's any holes that maybe came apart. I did find two, which is not a big deal. Just add a little bit of glue to it so that way you close up the holes so your stuffing doesn't poke out. Before you stuff him, you do want to add your embellishments like your eyes, your buttons, and the little designs on his arms like he has on the Pottery Barn website. Um, I don't know what I was doing here. I was trying to figure out the middle for the eyes. Now I use ribbon for this. You can use fabric, you can use felt, but for Mr. Spice, I did ribbons and a fabric for the eyes, and then for Mrs. Spice, I used just paint. Now, the reason why I ended up using paint for Mrs. Spice is because I wasn't loving how the hot glue was a little bit showing on the ribbons. And one way to avoid that is you can sew these in. You can also use fabric glue instead of the hot glue. That would probably be your best bet if you don't want to sew this on. If you are going to sew this, I would recommend that you do this before you put the bear together, so that way it's a little bit easier for you to sew just on the Sherpa side before you put the bottom side on, because then it's going to be hard to get the needle out if you have it closed. So that's just a little tip. You can either you can also is it embroider it like a, or is it cross stitch? Which one is it? I do not know. Let me know which one that is. Uh, all the designs as well, which I was contemplating to do. I know exactly what I'm talking about in my mind, but I do not know how to say it in English. But so I was planning on doing that, but then I just thought this would be a little bit easier, and I also didn't have all the necessary thread to do that. So I went ahead and I cut out some buttons, and then I also cut out, I was going to use the eyes, ribbons for the eyes, but then I saw that it was a little bit too small. So I went and I just got one of those fabric rolls from Dollar Tree and cut the eyes out of that.
The wonders of life got the prettiest side for everyone to enjoy. Standing up close by the Christmas tree.
I also cut the mouth out of the fabric instead of the ribbon, because I found the ribbon wasn't, I couldn't get the ribbon to curl up, so he looked more angry than smiling.
Glimmering light, I am right where I wanna be. I will be home for a couple of days. Wander around with you. You and me in the cold, thought it'd never be true. Wherever I go, I got you. Oh, I have stopped running, there is no way trying. You better loosen your belts. Drinking hot wine by the fire. Don't care of anything else. It's Christmas and some kind of love, my friend. I pray it will never end. Do you like to be here too? It's Christmas and outside snow's glistening. It's just you and me tonight. I'll spend all this Christmas with you.
So once all the stuff had time to dry, I stuffed the bear, and I just used stuffing from an old pillow.
Oh, it's such a charm, got you up in my arms. There's nobody at the door. You said I wish this will never be over. Darling, it's time for your present. Come over here. Now it is time to get out in the snow, lighting a light with you. Choirs will sing and the joy bells will ring. Nobody loves you as much as I do. It's a wonderful feeling from floor to the ceiling.
Once he was stuffed, I just had glued the side, and then I just tried to spread out the stuffing as much as possible. These are decorative pillows, not to sleep on. And here they are. What do you guys think? I'm not sure. I do love how well the white shows against the brown on the Mr. Spice, so I might go in and add those to Mrs. Spice, but I think she looks cute as well. It looks better off camera than the camera is showing it here, but I love them either way. For my next project, I picked up these tapered candles and I love the little design on them. They have stripes at Dollar Tree. And then I got some hot water. I did boil it and let it cool off. And I'm going to be making these Christmas tree candles. I let this sit in the hot water for maybe 45 seconds, and then I took a knife and I just made cuts. Now you want to make these cuts fairly deep. If you want them to lift up, you can just curve your knife up and they will lift up a little bit, or you can just go straight up, so that way they're just cuts without lifting too much. I did have to put these in as I was working with them, just to melt it a little bit more. As it cooled off, it went hard as a wax would. So I just went and did this all from the top to the bottom, doing these cuts. I think these turned out really cute. Definitely worth trying out. I probably next time wouldn't lift them up as much as I was lifting them here, but I am planning on making more as I love them. I love the way they turned out. I styled my coffee table with these in my living room.
Time of the year, drinking hot wine by the fire. Here on our own, we got nothing.
I have another easy project. If you watched my 2 weeks ago DIY, you might have seen this print. I will share it down below if you want to do this yourself. So I printed it off. I made the design and I printed it off, and then I took some coffee grounds and I added some hot water to them. I did have to strain these because when I first started painting with the coffee, there was a little bit too many coffee grounds on it. If you have instant coffee, this probably wouldn't happen, but I did not have instant coffee. And I'm trying to recreate some of these paintings, prints that you can buy all through different websites. Etsy is probably one of the most popular ones, and a lot of people add them to really nice vintage frames. So it's not about it being expensive. I just think I can create it for pretty much free with items that I have on hand. Like I said, I made this design myself, so that didn't cost me anything. And the frame that I'm going to be using is an old frame that I'm going to just upcycle a little bit, make it look a little bit more vintage. So I painted the whole picture, including the Christmas tree with this coffee, and this just gave it that vintage look, that aged look. So I painted the picture with a foam brush, and then I went in with my craft sponge and I just dabbed everywhere just to blend all the brush strokes.
It's Christmas and some kind of love, my friend. Pick up some candy canes and hang a wreath on your door.
While that picture was drying, I got my frame and I added some rub and buff on it all over. I went in all over that, especially into the little roses that were on the frame, just to really have it pop.
It's Christmas, outside snow's glistening. It's just you and me tonight. It's just you and me tonight. It's just you and me tonight. I'll spend all this Christmas with you.
So once I had most of the frame covered, I went in with some of my spun gold and I just touched up in certain spots, not all over the place, just in certain areas, just to give it that little bit of a what would it be called, a vintage depth. And then to finish the frame up, I added a little bit of black in just certain spots, and I just dabbed it on with my craft sponge, sort of to blend it in. And I did dab it into the paint, and then I dabbed it off onto the box just to so I don't have a big blob of paint.
Merry Christmas, baby. Reindeer's coming out to play. Santa Claus is packing the presents, making sure you've been behaving okay.
And then while the frame was drying, my picture was all dry, and I just went in with my hand and just rubbed off any of the coffee grounds that might have ended up there. They just fell right off. And then I took Mod Podge and I just brushed it over the tree area mostly, so it looks like it was an actual painting. The tree was actually painted on.
Merry Christmas, honey. Yeah. The snowman's dusting off his hat, putting on the show for everybody. To give them
I think this is such a great way to add a vintage decor into your home without spending the money that some of these items might cost altogether. So for my first project, I'm going to be creating the St. Jude candles from a Pottery Barn. These are bell looking candles, and I've wanted to create this for such a long time, all of last year, and I just couldn't find something that would work that I liked. So when my friend asked me if I wanted these, I knew exactly what I'm going to use them for. And I'm also purchased two candles from Dollar Tree, although I should have purchased probably four more. And then I'm going to also add some essential oils to create that cozy winter Christmas scent. So the first thing that I did is I went ahead and I spray painted it. This it will just give me a quick and solid base for these candle holders, and I'm using a metallic gold spray paint to do this. Once the project had fully dried, I went in with a couple different paints just to create that vintage, almost like hammered look that those candles have. So I'm going to be using some metallic, some spun gold, some yellow gold, and then also a metallic cinnamon. And I think this will just give me that look that I'm going for. First, I tried to do it with a sponge brush, which worked okay. But then I went ahead and got my craft brush, craft foam sponge, not brush, and I wetted it, and that worked really, really well. Started off with spun gold, but then I decided to add more colors to it and just blend it in together as I go. So I added some yellow gold, and then later on I add some metallic cinnamon. By blending in all the three colors and plus the base color, it just gave me the depth, and it gave me that vintage hammered look that I was trying to achieve. I also wanted to take a moment to thank you all for giving me so much love on my last two videos. I truly, truly appreciate it, and I am so grateful that you guys are enjoying all of the DIYs that I have been creating. I have been having so much fun creating and even more fun decorating with them for Christmas, as I already started decorating my home. So once I completed one, I did repeat that on the lids as well as on the other jar. I just didn't want to bore you with it. And then while that was drying, I did melt the candles, just putting the candles into the pot of water and boiling the water, which melts the wax. And then I removed the wax strip and added it to my jar, making sure that there was some wax on the bottom of the jar, so that way that will act as a glue. And then I also used a stick just to wrap the wick around, so that way it stays in place. And then when I poured on the melted candle, because I always forget how much less is in there than what the what it actually looks like once it's solid. So this gave me about a quarter of the container of the jar of wax. So I did add a little bit from the other one as well. So that now I have two half full candle holders, which is okay. Next time, because I can always make more if I feel that I burn through it. I don't typically burn through candles a lot because I don't burn a lot of candles in my home anymore, but once in a while I do like to light it up for ambiance. So we'll see how much of it I actually use it up. I did end up adding some of the essential oils. I added, well, a little bit more cinnamon than I anticipated because the drops weren't coming out, so I took the thing off of it. But it would be 2 drops of each, and it's cinnamon, pine needles, and orange, and it gives you a really cozy Christmas scent. So now I'm repeating the same process for the other jar, and like I said, I filled it about halfway and then I added the rest to the other jar. And then while that was setting, I wanted to do something for this tip of the jar lid. So I decided to wrap rope around it, and I used a little bit of hot glue to secure the first end of the rope, and then I went ahead and wrapped, adding dabs of hot glue along the way, so that way it just stays in place because it was narrow at the bottom and wider on the top. If I didn't add the glue, the rope kept sliding down, so this just kept it in place. And I did the same thing for the other jar lid as well, so that way they match. I'm not sure if I'm going to be using them together when I decorate, but in case if I do, they will look like they are a pair. And to complete it, I added more hot glue on top just to add to close up the top, and then I tied it in a knot with leaving a little loop on top of it. And I absolutely love the way this turned out. I am quite happy that I finally found something that I liked for this dupe. There are lots of dupes. People use a lot of different supplies for this dupe, but I haven't seen one with an apothecary jar yet. So here's one for you guys. Let me know what you think. Wouldn't be a DIY video without adding some more ornaments. We've all seen, this is not necessarily a price dupe, it's more or less finding them in store. You've all seen the flocked ornaments, everybody has them. McGee and Co has them, Pottery Barn has them. These are more pricier, but you can also find them at Michael's. I haven't been able to find them at home since we do not have Target or Hobby Lobby. So I wanted brown ones. I did find beige ones and black ones at Michael's, but I could not find brown ones. And to get the flocking material, it is so expensive to get it shipped to Canada. I've found them on Etsy, and I think for one color it would cost me over $30 for a little bag of it. So I've been trying to figure out a way to create these without the flocking, and this came pretty close, and I was quite happy with the way it turned out. So I started off with spray painting the ornaments. I had these flat ornaments on hand. I bought those on sale 2 years ago at Michael's. So they had come in handy. for creating DIYs, and I didn't want to go out and buy some more because I want to use up some of my stash. So this is why I'm using the flat ones, but this would work for round ones as well. They sell lots of them at Dollar Tree. I'm using dark walnut. Again, I want to create that brown, although this dark walnut was a little bit darker, but it worked really well as a base. And then while I was spray painting, I also took the lids and I spray painted them with that metallic gold paint that I just used for the candle holders. And I think this just gives it that more of a high-end look. If these are painted, you can also use a rub and buff on them, or I haven't had luck with just going straight with acrylic paint. I find that it doesn't really stick on, so I always like to spray paint a base color, and then if you still want to add more color to it, a little bit of a different color, you can go in and it makes the paint stick a little better. Now, if you have seen a lot of my DIY videos where I create these type of ornaments, I usually put the flower directly onto the wet paint. But I watched a video on Instagram, I believe, and she was saying to let the paint dry completely, then spray, the ornament wet with water, uh, and then add flour. This way the flour is not gonna cling on to paint and pull it off, which happened to me before. Even when the ornaments were dry, if there was just a little patch of maybe a wet bubble or something, it would pull the paint off. So this just makes sure that that paint stays on there. So I did this. I took just a spray bottle, sprayed it. You could also just wet them um, with a brush, or just run them over the water, I guess, too. You could do that as well. It looked like the water was sliding right off, but the ornaments were wet. So I was able to get that flour to stick there. And you want to let this completely dry. And with it being water, you could tell uh, when it was dry and when it wasn't dry. So once they were fully dry, I took a dry brush. This could be just any brush, as long as it's dry, and just brushed all the flour off. Now, once I felt that all the loose flour was off, I went ahead and took some of my brown paint from Dollar Tree. It's an acrylic brown paint. I think it's called milk chocolate, I believe, and then just dabbed it with a wet sponge on. And this gave it that almost felt texture, which the flocked ornaments have. So as you can see, the base color didn't really matter in this case. You probably could have just sprayed it with water and then went ahead with flour, because the paint was completely covering it. Now you could also just leave it, uh, brush off some more flour off and leave it, and that would give you a different look as well. So lots of choices here, and of course the color is also a choice. So I went with brown because that is what I wanted. Now I was finding that the brown was a little, I want to say, maybe a little darker, or too brown. So I am going to be adding a little bit of white to this as well. I was just trying to get it as close to the color that I had on my mind that these should look like. I just love the way these turned out, and I can't wait to use them on my front foyer tree, as I'm changing the whole look of that tree this year. For my next DIY, I picked up these Dollar Tree bells. They were $1.25. I'm pretty sure every Dollar Tree has these, and I'm going to be recreating this look, although I'm going to be using 3 bells, not 5, because I'm going to be making 2 of them. So I removed all the little embellishments that the bells had, and then I went in with, again, those 3 colors, spun gold, um, yellow gold, and then cinnamon. But I'm not going to be painting these. I tried painting them and I felt that the paint wasn't really going on as well as I would like. So I went in and then I ended up dabbing the paint on instead of brushing it on, which you will see in just a minute. And I had to work in stages for this. So I went first with the spun gold, and I only did the top part. The bottom part is a little bit flatter. So I let the bottom so I did the top part and then I let it fully dry before I did the bottom part, and then I repeated the same process with all the paints that I was adding, although I was mixing the next 2 paints together and dabbing them together at the same time. But I did do one half first and then the next half once it's dried. So this project did take a little bit of time, but the end result is so worth it. For past few years, I have been obsessed with decorating with bells, whether that's the vintage cowbells or just any gold rustic looking bells. And so I wanted to recreate this because I wanted to add something to my outdoor wreath, and which is another project in this DIY video that I will be sharing. And I wanted to spruce up my wreath, but I also wanted to add bells to it. So I decided to make my own to add to it. And I am obsessed with how all those 2 projects came together and how it looks on my front door. So once they were painted and dried, I went ahead and got some rope. I have just some twine, and I also have some thicker rope that I'm going to be using. And I wanted to make like a door hanger almost with the rope. So I went ahead and I tied a loop, and then I went with a thicker rope and I wrapped it around and created a little bit of a longer loop at the top, just to kind of recreate that look that the bells or here had. And so that way I can hang them up on my door, I can hang them up on my banister, my mantle, wherever I choose to use them, if I choose to use them outside of my wreath. And as I mentioned before, I am grouping them by 3, and I'm making them 3 different lengths. So when you're cutting your rope, you want to make sure that it's cut different lengths, or that you tie a knot at a different length. And as I mentioned before, I just love the way these guys turned out. And I think it's such an inexpensive project to give you that high-end elevated look. Especially I I've decorated with these white bells before, but I am so feeling the traditional colors this year, along with some vintage and earthy tones, and that is what all of my decor in the house is, with some nostalgic pieces sprinkled in throughout. So if you ever want to check out how I decorate with all of these things, I do have a home channel where I share all that, and it's linked down below. So let me know what you guys think about these guys. So for my next project, I use this very expensive wreath for an inspiration from Pottery Barn. And this one is a little bit smaller, as I have, I think these are 10-inch round forms from Dollar Tree. but I needed a smaller one because I'm going to be using it on my home sign. I like to switch out the wreath that I use, and I needed one for there because I used the one that was originally there somewhere else in a house. So I went in my stash and I picked up all the berries that I had that were just for crafting. And then for the base, this you can't even see, but I wanted a bit of a solid base for the wreath. I use the pine needles, pine branches from Dollar Tree, and I just had glued them onto the wreath. Before I did that, I did take off some of the other branches off of a garland that I had, just to use to add a bit of a different textures. I am pulling these long ones. I did not end up using these. And then I also get the pine cones and the berries all ready for my wreath assembly. So once I had all of my embellishments ready, it was time to assemble the wreath. So like I mentioned before, I'm going to hot glue the branches on. This will create a base for my wreath. It took 5 of these to cover the whole wreath. So once that was in place, I took a berry garland. This is a garland that I've had for probably about 20 some years. I still use it on my family room tree all the time, but I had switched out my tree 2 years ago, so I have a much smaller one. And so I have a lot of these wreaths left, a lot of these garlands left over. So I'm going to add that one to it. I am just removing the end pieces that no longer have berries on them. I'm also removing some berries that were broken. And then I'm also going to clip off tips that don't have anything on them past the berries. I am leaving the leaves on there as well and just spreading everything out. And now I'm going to hot glue the whole garland onto the wreath and it will cover the whole top of the wreath. The inspiration piece has lots of different berries, from large ones to small, the clusters of berries to smaller berries, from bright red to dark red. So that is what I'm trying to recreate here. I did end up adding another one, another smaller one in here, just because the first one didn't fully go around. So once it was on there, I went ahead and trimmed off any pieces that I did that were empty and just a little unnecessary twigs that were sticking out. Then I just shaped it the way I wanted to, and then I started with adding the other stuff to it. Whenever I'm working with a wreath this size, I like to add my biggest pieces first because I feel like this takes up the most space, and then I can kind of see where I can add all the smaller pieces as fillers. So guys, I would like to know, what are your colors for this year for Christmas? Are you going with traditional? Are you going with earthy? Are you mixing it all together? Are you going on the wild side and using a lot of different colors? I would love to know. I love Christmas decor. It is one of my favorite holidays to decorate for. And I love fall as a season to decorate for, but Christmas is definitely a holiday that I enjoy decorating for the most. And I transform my whole main floor into a Christmas wonderland. So let me know down below what your theme this year is for your Christmas decor. So once all of my berries were in place, I am adding my greenery picks in here, like my pine, I think I will add a little bit of cedar as well. I don't know whether I have spruce. I'm not 100% sure what exactly all of these are called. But anyways, I'm just adding them in, and then I'm going to finish it off with some pine cones. I did go ahead and grab a couple more pieces just to fill it in a little bit more. And I absolutely love with the way this turned out. And now we are moving on to my wreath. This might be familiar to some of you that have been around for a while. This was originally Michael's wreath that had a lot of stuff on it. A few years back, I took most of the embellishments off and added extra branches to it, like cedar, and then I also had some pine needles that I added to it and some blackberries. And it's been serving me quite well, but I wanted to spruce it up a little bit as I've seen this wreath that I absolutely love. Now this one is from McGee & Co, so I guess we do have one McGee & Co inspiration here. So I wanted to kind of recreate it, but I didn't want to go out and spend money on a wreath, because this one was in a perfect shape still, and it's pretty good quality. I did spend about, I think they were about $50, but they did have buy one get one free at Michael's. But I'm talking about probably going back about maybe even 10 years ago. And like I said, it's still in a really good shape. So I did wanted to spruce it up a little bit and give it some new life. So I'm starting off with tying up the twine, and now I'm going to take this twine and just wrap it around and make it a fairly thick top. I'm also going to be adding some cedar picks that I have. These came from Timu, which I will show you in just a little bit. I was actually thinking about maybe adding some pine cones, some more pine cones to it, because it does have couple you just can't see. So I was thinking about getting a bit bigger ones and adding those, but I am not doing that in this video. That's something that I might decide to do. Do you guys use real garland wreaths? I did make a real wreath once and that I used on my side door, and I loved it, and it lasted me the whole season. I just went ahead and cut some branches out of my kitchen, out of my backyard, and use those. But I think I did share that on my channel, but probably looking back several years ago. I know you can buy them, but I just wanted to know, do you guys have a fake one, or do you guys use the real ones? I do love the look of the real ones, and it probably would save me some storage space, but I don't love spending the money every year. So make sure when you are tying these up that you leave yourself an end to tie it to. I kind of wrapped it in there, so I was just trying to tie it to a loop. When I did my next one, I did leave an end. I am not sharing how I did the next one because I it's just a repetitive thing. So I'm sharing with you how I did just the one of them. So here I am adding the cedar picks. Like I said, these came from Timu. They were very inexpensive. I will link them down below. And what do you guys think? I think this is looking really good, and I think it's going to look absolutely spectacular with my DIY bells. Thank you so much for watching and crafting along with me. I hope you are as thrilled as I am with how these turned out. Who knew we could get that Pottery Barn elegance on a DIY budget? If you love these holiday dupes and want to see more seasonal decor on a budget, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join my DIY family. I'd love to know which of these was your favorite, and if you try any of them yourself, tag me on Instagram. Link is down below so I can see. Here's to a beautiful, festive home this holiday season, and until next time, happy decorating.